Good afternoon.
Hey, good morning, good evening.
Morning.
Hey, Matesh. So we survived the easy CLA apocalypse.
Wait, is it fixed?
What's that?
Yeah, is it fixed now?
It seems to be.
Hmm.
They said it. They actually did say they fixed it, and it has been working since. So yeah, our PR. Well, our PRs are still, but now at least they're like a bunch of things failing for not easy CLA. So
Are you sure? Easier, so it'll also be red, right? Can't
it
be sure.
would. I went well. Except I went through them all.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was hoping to, yeah, to clean some stuff up or get our PR backlog down, but obviously didn't try very hard.
I think some of them are still failing on the good stuff, so I need to replace them.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, I put a couple things just to that had caught my eye. One was this. I don't know if you had a chance to read it yet.
Mhm.
Basically, multiple subscribers. So I guess the way that right now the um, our monos and things, fluxes and things like that work um, is the first subscriber we pass the content, or no, when you do the subscribe, that's when we initiate the context, right? That's when we grab the context because that's and then we pass it to the subscriber. Am I getting that right, Anurag?
I think so.
So with multiple subscribers, oh, I see. I guess I see. With multiple subscribers, maybe yeah, go ahead.
I don't think Reactive Streams lets you have multiple subscribers. Just wanting to subscribe once and that's it. I mean, unless it's a RX Java specific thing, but Reactive Streams specification.
Let's find a test.
Yeah.
And once for each subscription. Under test. So we have our mono. Don't know if I follow this.
No.
Under test. What's under test?
Let's see. So there's some difference between cold monos and hot observables. Whatever that is. I never heard those terms before.
Cold,
Okay.
monos, and
So I guess
hot
monos
observables.
specifically you're allowed to subscribe to multiple times. Flux, I'm guessing no. Or
Oh, right. That makes sense because Flux is just a stream, right? It wouldn't make
Yeah.
sense to subscribe more than one.
I thought a mono is just a special case of a flux, but apparently it has this behavior change, which makes our life very annoying. Uh, is this changing the idea of propagating the constant context on subscribe though? It isn't doing that, right?
I don't think so. I think it. So, yeah, so I don't really understand. Okay. Yeah, just wanted to try to figure out what like
I didn't
basically.
read any of this yet. So, I'll try to look, but it looks like they have the instrument API change merged into this one also, so it's a bit hard to review it. 3738 seems to be part of the 2751.
Oh, I see. That's why he.
Ah,
called
but
it
then, okay,
commit.
specific commit, got it. Okay. So
Oh, this is better. Okay, yes. Should capture span for eventually per subscription. Mono.
I mean, did we actually create spans for Reactor? Can't even remember that.
No, just passing context.
Reactor with span, okay. Yeah. And then if we use Reactor with the with span annotation.
Oh, yes, where you return
Yeah.
the, that was what he was doing, was
Yep.
returning the promise types.
Yeah. Well, we'll look at this code, but now I get the use case. It seems valid.
Cool. I mean, I can reply
Mhm.
tomorrow just to that extent, just that, yeah, this sounds great. Go for it.
Yeah. This is mostly just about creating the spans. This isn't about context propagation, I think. So that seems okay.
Oh, I see.
At least that's what I got from looking at those tests. Yeah.
The width, it's about the width span. But the width span doesn't create, it's each method call it creates one. And then it extends that until the mono is ended. Oh, I see what you're saying, but what he
So
wants to know.
what is this? This with span mono. I guess since we're instrumenting the method call, you would expect just one span, no matter how many times it's subscribed. Well,
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's the question. What do people expect? So as soon as the method is called, no span is created. It's only once the mono is subscribed, that's when span is created, which I guess is correct.
Once the mono is subscribed. Oh, so it doesn't create, I thought it created the,
Everything else it does from mono, for reactive, it probably doesn't. because you don't activate the code until you subscribe.
Oh,
Like you
right.
wouldn't make any calls or whatever until you hit the
I
subscribe thing.
see. Which is
Yeah.
different than like a completable command.
Exactly. Yeah. So pretty confusing. Yeah,
It is.
I
So why is so?
but even so, yeah, like when you call, I'm sure nowadays they have like database libraries that return monos, but as soon as you call the method, nothing happens. It just returns that mono. You have to subscribe for it to do anything. So I guess it makes sense. It's probably something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then yeah, if you're allowed to subscribe twice, then you should make 2 spans. So yeah, it seems correct.
So 2 subscriptions to okay.
I don't like how they allow this. It seems to make it very like it's not even reactive anymore. It's what is this? So I was a bit surprised to see it's allowed, but apparently it is. So
Okay. Thank you for talking me through that. I think I understand enough to reply there. The other that caught my eye was your question on
catch the eye, yeah. So I mean, I'm sure Carlos is not gonna like the idea, but I figured I'd bring it up. Sounds like at least open census is in this direction now, right? Like they don't care about the shim. Auto instrumentation is good enough. Is that I
they,
thought I heard something like maybe you say something like that a long time ago. It's been a while though, so maybe John mentioned it, but it's not like it sounded like open census shim has been deprioritized.
I suspect that I don't know why, but I would guess that's because people are probably just replacing it with OpenTelemetry directly, especially
And census
Google.
users are on the edge enough to do that. Is that sort of the idea? Maybe.
Yeah, or this heavily Google, internal Google stuff, and don't they like auto? I mean,
Yeah.
I can't imagine them good.
I'm not worried about inside Google. I figured the shim was mostly for external users. Maybe they don't have.
I don't think there's very many external open census users compared to open tracing.
Maybe that's why. Yeah, so
I know that Azure, our Python was like an early adopter of open census. So our Python, we do have Python users on open census. But yeah.
I just brought this up because I thought someone doesn't want to migrate OpenTelemetry, just adding the Java agent actually seems like the best thing they could do in general. And in which case we don't like the open tracing library shim doesn't matter that much. We can probably do a better job with performance using some instrumentation context type of thing and whatnot.
I see. So you were, yeah, that's what I wanted to confirm. You're talking about actually writing auto instrumentation for OpenTree.
Like it presumably look exactly like OpenTelemetry API bridge, and it's the open census. It bridges that into OpenTelemetry or something. I think it's similar to what our library does, but with the Java agent, it should be able to do a simpler job. Like there's some hackery involved in these librations, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it, so I wasn't clear what the benefit there was.
That was just my idea.
Yeah.
Users don't want to change the instrumentation up, then actually the Java agent probably satisfies that use case very well anyways.
Right. Yeah, let's see. The other, I mean, it certainly could go out of this repo.
Mhm.
Uh,
Well, I mean, technically, the specification says all language is supposed to have the shim, so it's a core
oh
thing.
no! Oh
So
no!
in that sense, contrib is probably not correct. But if we considered the use case in Java to be satisfied 100% with the Java agent, I think there is a thing to be said for just implementing the Java agent instead of library. That could be just a Java quirk that we accept. One option.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't thought through all the use cases, but thought it might be okay.
Okay. Well,
Because I don't want to like reasoning about this shim and then also the Java when the user adds it, and like things just get a bit crazy. So I'm just a bit worried about that.
oh, if they use this and then the Java agent.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Otherwise, they're sort of stuck. I mean, I still think, as much as I don't like Java agents, most people do. So most users are going to use the Java agent. And if that's the way to get into our instrumentation, then if they also have open tracing instrumentation enabled and using this shim, seems like just all craziness could happen.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Okay.
Which might be what Open Census realized. Just use the Java agent, forget about this.
Yeah, although we don't have a bridge for Open Census.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the bridging thing is tough, and yeah, the bridge on top of a bridge is scary. Yes. I don't know why it's so laggy. Yeah, and it's a good point that probably a lot of I mean, well, I don't know actually, but it's likely that a lot of the open tracing people would want the agent anyway. So then this is a real thing. Okay, cool. I can make comments. I can provide some feedback tomorrow on that to help get let Carlos know that we're serious about thinking about it. See what he thinks. Was there anything that any PRs that are stuck that you know of that need review?
Rat Pack whenever you get a chance.
Rat Pack. Oh yeah.
Not high priority. More important would be for the Java contribute book. I'm going to do a review on that one.
Which one?
Java contrib.
This? Separate.
Standard order of first publishing snapshots from main and then adding the release support workflow after confirming that. And then finally trying to release.
I see. this is okay. This is the now just a standard RPR YAML, right? And this one is on merge.
Question: does the PR YAML also publish snapshots?
No.
Okay, that's good.
I don't think PRs can have secrets anyways, so it's not really possible.
Oh.
Publish snapshots. Got it.
Main task right now is to get this sampler thing into our distro.
Oh, right. Oh, I see. That's why you need to publish it. Yeah.
After Ratpack, whenever that's not high priority. I've been wanting to do Ratpack for a long time just because I feel as if
Yeah, I was gonna ask why. Why?
it's a good exercise because Ratpack is sort of like it's both server framework and has execution. Like it's an async framework as well. So I've always wanted to try instrumenting that as a library instrumentation. And it works pretty well. There's no test disabled because this library, like many of other library instruments, we have to disable some propagation or something related to that. But so far, everything seems to have gone fine for Ratpack because it was instrumentable. Yeah.
That's impressive.
But the main difference with the Java agent is that since that's just using Netty, there's no handler span. I think I finally understand what a handler span is. It's our excuse when we have Netty instrumentation enabled. Is that the reason we have handler span? I don't know. But so this one doesn't have handler span. Someday we would want the Java agent to have similar behavior, but I don't know how to make that happen because we need a way for the Netty instrumentation not be applied when we know that the underlying thing is a full instrumentation.
So the Netty server instrumentation.
Yeah. If we can't disable that, we can't use this library instrumentation from the agent.
So Netty is always first in this scenario, right? And Ratpack second. So our usual pattern with those server spans doesn't work.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Luckily, a lot of the code can be shared, so it's not the end of the world, but unfortunately, the actual instrumentation handler won't be shareable for now. I guess maybe the code also, I don't know. So even the HTTP attributes are all being set by Netty instrumentation right now. I don't think there's much that the Ratpack is doing. Which is both good and bad because I did find Ratpack doesn't expose much information. I need to dig some more because they have a very abstract, like all their objects are just maps basically. So it might be in there somewhere, but some information like the remote socket address might be hard to get. I'm gonna keep on digging for that.
Do we, as far as Netty instrumentation, is just the Netty client instrumentation that we know is broken with pipelining, or is do we know if the server instrumentation has the same problem?
I think it was only the client instrumentation. The server was working correctly, I think, because you always know when you're sending the response for which request.
Even server. Yeah, it's no connection pool type of thing in the server, so maybe it works somehow.
I was just wondering if that's since we want to eventually probably get rid of the Netty client or
Yeah.
not have that on by default.
Yeah. Server. Sure. I guess server should work. Not even server, I guess. It's one connection. I think we usually propagate the context on a Netty channel, but that would never work in an HTTP2 thing where there's only one channel. So my gut feeling is yes, but not sure. I don't think we have any tests. We have a lot of high concurrency tests from the client side or on the server side.
Oh,
Like we have one of them, I think. We have like 4 different versions on the client. I think just one of the server, not the single connection one.
cool. We'll ask Nikita for his, see if he can access his memory bank on Thursday.
I know Laurie did a lot for the client. I wonder if that was just like maybe he also knows on the server side and he just hasn't gotten around to it or something, but might have some thoughts on that. Yes, in that sense, he asked why I did the rat pack, but of course, on the back of my mind was also get as much library instrumentation for Netty stuff as possible to hopefully eventually get rid of it. It's always there as well as a motivation. Yeah. I don't know if I want to do Vertex though. Looks like a beast. I guess Vertex we already have Vertex 4 through their library.
Yeah.
Then so Vertex 3, what do we do with that? I guess that becomes the question.
Delay tactic
Yep.
until, yeah,
Yeah.
that will go away on its own eventually. Yeah, play. Although actually no, because they don't use Netty anymore. I forgot. They switched to, or maybe it's still Netty, but it's Akka. It's Akka HTTP. Which does Akka HTTP use Netty?
Yeah.
Okay. Scala.
Yep. Yeah, so in that sense, I guess Okta and Vertex are the big ones. If those had native instrumentation, it'd be relatively close to getting rid of native instrumentation. Anything else?
Do not understand what's going on with the whole of my own local lag on Google Docs. Let's try refresh, maybe. Oh, there's nobody here. And my lag
Yeah,
appears to be gone.
It seems pretty laggy for me also.
My lag seems better now that I refreshed. Anything, Mateusz? Anything that you want
There's
to...
this PR by Ludmila that I finally took a look at it on Friday, and I actually did some very simple proof of concept of an sort of alternative solution. And which one? Oh yeah, this one. So I tried to make her idea like more generic to get rid of the client span and server span and so on. But as I wrote this and during the implementation, I kind of found out that it is possible to completely remove client span and just use this instrumentation type, instrumentation category, or however you name it. But I think that we might need a separate thing for server and consumer span, so maybe two of them at once. So maybe we need a separate local root span or something like this. That would be set by the server instrumenter, and just use the labels, the categories or types just for the client things. Because we actually retrieve the server span in several different instrumentations, while those categories or types they're just used to turn off an instrumentation that's doing the same thing essentially.
So, what about like like say RPC inside of a servlet? Like if you had, I'm trying to think of where that was the only kind of example I could think of on the server side where you might have those layers that you might want to suppress.
Well, there's also the application servlet and the server, application server like Tomcat and servlet API level. Oh, I guess Ready, Netty, and what was it? Ratpack. This is still like the same. We still want to only have one server span, but yeah, I don't know actually. I just kind of run into this that we might need that local root span, or we may just have a separate category for that.
So local root span being different than server span for like producer, I mean for like a consumer to bridge the consumer and servers.
Yeah, so because right now we have this check that if you want to create a new consumer span and there is a server or consumer span in the context, then just don't do it.
Oh,
so that's part of the difference, unfortunately.
Oh, I see. And then on the outgoing, so if we have local root on the incoming, is there something similar on the outgoing?
And on the outgoing like right now is just the client. We don't do anything for producer spans. Okay. We should, but yeah. So I honestly don't really have any good idea where to go with this. So I would appreciate reviews, and if just you took a look at my PR and Ludmila's PR and try to think it through.
Uh-oh, lag is back. Let's try. Okay, cool. Maybe we can plan to, on Thursday's meeting, I'll invite Ludmila, and I'll review also beforehand, and we can chat.
Sure. I'll think about it some more. Maybe I'll have some ideas how to simplify this, and maybe it is possible to just have one thing for the both use cases. I don't know yet.
Yeah, just so I understand what oh, one thought, also I don't think I don't remember if I put in notes. Anurag had a thought that probably orthogonal to these of calculating the category based on the extractors that were added.
Yeah, that would be possible, I think. I mean, we could, yeah, we could just like, for example, make an extractor return category in some method, and like HTTP extractor will, or HTTP client extractor will return HTTP client and stuff like this. It would be doable. There is a lot of code here. I made it slightly different from Ludmila's PR, but oh, if you just expand the code in the middle, in the instrumental, there's this case server, and there was a hidden bit of code.
Here?
And that one, the one below.
Here?
Yeah. And you can see there's this check that if you're a server or a consumer, you check whether any of these exists. That's one part of the difference. And the other part of the difference is that we actually retrieve the server span and server or Spring handler instrumentations.
Right.
For the client, this is just checking if there is a client, just suppress. If not, then don't. It's much simpler.
Right. We don't really care. We don't even ever get access to it.
Yeah. So
at some point we might, if we want to, if the enhancement idea of enhancing the parent client.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, that's true. It might be useful. So that only leaves us with this single line that that points that maybe the server and consumer span are really the same.
And then instrumentation category. I see. So the idea is this replaces the.
Exactly.
And why doesn't it replace it already? Like,
well, because it's still a proof of concept PR, and I just wrote it quickly to see how it looks like.
Yeah, sorry, I meant what about this doesn't address the server consumer issue? Or does this?
Let me remember how it looked like. Oh, I think I know. what I tried to do first was to create a separate labels for or separate categories for server and consumer, and then only I found out that they are pretty much the same. So I added the local root one, but still left the server one with a to-do and with a question like, do we want to replace the server and consumer with a, yeah. And there's
Oh,
the
I see.
parallel
You
to-do
have
below.
local root client, HTTP client.
Yeah.
Okay. Database.
I also thought about using multiple categories. So you would like, instead of HTTP client, you would have HTTP comma client, but it's very, very problematic when you try to actually find out if you have an HTTP comma client span in the context. Because you might have an HTTP server and like database client, and then you have HTTP database server client, and which one is with which one. And
Right. Oh, okay. I think I'm finally grasping the, yeah, because, right, there's the two axes. There's the semantic convention, and then
yeah,
there's
the span
client server. And yeah, I was only thinking client and server, but yes, consumer producer, that makes it to me. I was kind of thinking like for the keys, if it's just client and server, yeah, you can have separate keys, but yeah, you probably want to share. Um, do you want to share? I mean, like, for consumer, yeah, for this, like, is this correct even? Like, I mean,
Could there be a consumer executing in a server, for example?
consumer executing
I don't know.
on a server. Consumer executing the server. It could, but I don't really know what that would mean, and it's not. I think it would be okay if it didn't get suppressed.
Don't we use consumer even for receive spans or something? There's the receive
Yeah.
and process. And so receive, I guess, could happen inside a server.
Oh, the receive ones. I always get confused with the consumer. I would think consumer meaning just means the processing key.
Yeah,
Um,
which maybe that's correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, it's ambiguous, right? But if
Yeah.
it also means receiving, because to me, receiving is like a client call. But, and certainly, client and producer could overlap, and you would want to suppress, like if you had a message producer and it used HTTP under the hood, you would want that ability to suppress the underlying HTTP.
Possibly. I think that AWS SDK does exactly this.
Producer. Maybe we have some logic in the tracers that didn't make it over here.
AWS SDK might just be stuffing the client spin and just arbitrarily without using tracer.
I see, to manually suppress the underlying. Okay, so yes, so we have the multiple dimensions. Okay. I think I got it enough to now go and do my homework.
Yeah. And anyway, that's also a good question, whether this server consumer check is correct, right? Whether maybe we should have it separated. That's I don't know.
Check consumer. Yeah, but it doesn't help us even if it is because of the client producer. We still get at least the 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, server, client, producer. Okay. I'm glad you brought that up.
So actually, there's a couple of points we can talk about if you open up the Rat PR. But actually, a bit more general than our path. One is OpenTelemetry server handler of Java. It's a sort of FYI, I guess, but
server error, server
server handler. It's around line 40 or so. Basically, with Ratpack, the root isn't available when we create the span. And even in the library, like even though it's not a handler span, even so, the root just wasn't available until later. And so for now, I haven't added this pattern to the instrumentation API, but if we find that it's common for the root to not be available when instrumenting, that's something we could consider that we need to make a bit easier. The instrumentation API. For now, I just did it manually here.
Yeah, I think we saw that also in, was it Vertex? There was another one we were struggling with, and Laurie had found like we had a sporadic failure, or maybe it was Webflux. And it was Webflux. But we were like, I think we were looking at like talking at one point about how the library instrumentation would work there also. And there was a similar concept of there was a top level handler that we would want to instrument to capture the whole request lifecycle. But then it wasn't until later on at some point where it resolved the route.
Yeah. So like for our other attributes, we have this pattern where we check in the request, and if it's not there, we check, like if it's null, we skip it. And so some we check both in the request and response. The problem with route is that we also use it as the span name that doesn't follow that pattern so well. So if we have to address this, it will be a bit complicated. I'm sure we can figure something out, but that's the annoying thing about route.
I see. Yeah, basically,
Right
you're
now
not
we don't have any
instrumenter support, and you're just kind of
Yeah,
raw
exactly.
hotel API.
Which is always, of course, valid. Like if something is too weird, then using the hotel API is the best way. We don't want to have a million use cases in the instrument API. But if the routing is common, then we would want to figure out a way to have an instrument API.
Yeah. So, I mean, potentially, like you have start and like
Yeah.
a on route kind of
Or
extra.
maybe start could try to fill the route, and then somehow, and like if start didn't fill it, then end fills it and updates the name. Like I don't know if that information should be propagated somehow or if there's some way to manage that, but that's sort of the logic we'd want, I think. Try and start, it failed, and try and end.
I see. So if you calculate the route, that's true. If you can calculate the route along the way and attach it to the response, and then pull it out of the response on end.
Yeah. Or even generally, so in the case of RATPEG, it's the same object, like it's the request object that has it. It's just in the start, it's unresolved, and in the end, it's resolved.
Oh. Well, that's nice.
Yeah. Just get the path binding thing, which somehow happens to, like that was insanely confusing because it seemed like it's supposed to work and it wasn't working. Then I realized it's just a life cycle thing where it ended up getting filled in later. It was the same field.
And
So right now we only do this, but
if there.
Yeah.
But if we moved it here, oh, I see, and we added request response.
Yeah. So anyways, I don't definitely not going to do it with this PR, but something to keep in mind. It sounds like we do have this route issue coming up, then yeah, that's something we'll do, I think. Brave did it. Like I remembered it when I was looking at the RATPEG Brave instrumentation. I was like, oh yeah, I remember route we always resolve at the end, not at the start, because most frameworks don't have it at the start.
Yeah, I would be fine with that change. That seems a relatively, I mean, it still fits everything nicely.
Other thing from this PR. Okay, so it's that issue 3700. We can go to the RATPEG HTTP attributes extractor. So RATPEG doesn't have the full URL, and so I have logic to build it up, my PR. And I think this is also like this is the case where we wouldn't want to do it either. If we have the full URL, we use it. If we don't, then we use the parts. That's one approach, or we always try to fill everything. That's another approach. And that's sort of what this issue is discussing, I think.
Yeah, I think that my thought after your comments was I think I was leaning towards just capturing what I guess not constructing the URL like if we aren't given it. Like I'm okay with the exporter, you know, having to do that kind of logic or
Pretty sure that's the semantic convention intended. We fill one of those sets.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like so, number 4 I think is the simplest. Just it has the potential of the performance overhead. But I do like the simplicity of it.
Yeah. What is that? Yeah, there's some weird cases also with like, because I think I looked up the servlet one, and like we have get path but not get query, like separate, or we have them separate but not.
Yeah, that's also so target we end up having to build pretty often because of that. Like most libraries don't present
Right.
target, present
They
both
give us
path and
path
query
plus query.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe we're just screwed anyways. In that case, maybe URL. If we're gonna build something anyways, just build a URL. That's definitely a reasonable way of thinking about it.
Right. If we're gonna have to build something anyway. That makes
Yeah. Or sort of at least one of the following sets is what it says, but I'm pretty sure the intent is just one of the sets. Because otherwise it's sort of wasteful.
GP host. Oh yeah, host has the port in it, I guess. Host header, yeah, I think it has the port in it if it's applicable. So for Ratpack, you're saying that you were having to build up
URL.
the URL. I think we do that for a lot of instrumentations though.
Yeah.
And we do it very inefficiently currently.
Mhm. Yep.
We could definitely do it more efficiently.
Yeah.
Or let me just write.
Yeah, but if we have this notion that, and then we're always building up for target anyways. I do like the idea even more about just only worrying about URL. Maybe don't fill in any of those other attributes ever. I'm not sure that's a correct statement that we always have to build up for target. Ratpack we didn't. Ratpack was one of the few libraries I found where it exposed a path plus three params type of thing directly.
The it gives you the
It gives you a target basically. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's called URI. So it's the most confusing method I've ever seen. Get URI returns the target.
Okay. So options here. Only downside is perf.
I think so.
Which is real. So is there a difference between server and client? Like on clients, we probably tend to have, well, I don't know, we still have to build it. We're still building up that URI.
I won't know if I've seen a good pattern of whether one of them tends to one of them.
Yeah.
Common for a client to have the full URL. Also common for it to not to. In the server, I guess it's rare to have the full URL. Maybe that's in client. You might always create the URL by tbcolon/localhost or something like that. And or you might set that in the client and then use just a relative path. I think both patterns prevail.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to get going for another meeting,
Oh yeah.
but I'd bring that
All
up,
right.
the red pack example.
Cool. All right. Good to see you.
See ya.
See you Friday. See you Thursday, Mateusz.
Bye.